conversation with another artist. Her name is Teresita de la Torre. She just joined. I know her as a working artist. She had a show at Eastside International last year, and it was a really beautiful installation that she had. What was the name of your show at Eastside International last year? Or 2019 or
That was that was
2018?
that was 2018.
2018.
That show was called Hilando Relaciones.
Yeah, and I remember seeing a combination of photography, a combination of physical objects. I think your bed was part of that installation. And if I remember correctly, there was like a smell too, right? Like there was an experience as soon as you walked in that greeted you that was not visual or sensor, not visual or tactile, but very, very much about smelling, right? Am I wrong?
It was just like probably the the smell of like old like furniture and like las cobijas San Marcos, like um and like I don't know that I actually had a smell component. I think at one point I wanted to do a uh like cook sopa de fideo and have some type of performance, but that didn't happen.
Well, I'm really glad to know that my memory doesn't serve me too far off in that like the smell wasn't intentional, but then I got a smell out of it. Uh, but it's really great to see you again, Teresita. I think the last time we saw each other was here in my studio. We were drawing for like 1 or 2 hours. It was real fun.
Was it then, or was it maybe? I think I saw you in Tijuana.
Oh, that's right. You were dropping off some crayons to out here in Tijuana, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's right. Tijuana. That wasn't that long ago. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Like, I mean, dentro de lo que cabe, like everybody, I, there's good days, there's bad days, there's just like a whole roller coaster of things, but super, super blessed, and lucky to have, a house and food and family, and my health. And I'm still able to do my job online. I teach art at a high school and middle school, so super lucky that I can still have um, income, because I know that if this pandemic happened a year ago, I would have been like really, really screwed, like financially, because all my jobs, I had multiple jobs and they were all hourly. So pretty lucky that now I have one steady job and I can still do it from home.
That's great. I'm real happy to hear that you're able to transition in this really turbulent time and that you get to have a lot more flexibility, I feel, because you get to move around, right?
Flexibility now.
Yeah. Like you get to be with your family because you're from like Long Beach, am I right? Or you have a long
Yeah.
story of where you're from, but
Yes.
currently you're not where you live, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I live in Long Beach, and I teach in Hollywood. I teach in the city of Hollywood. So I normally day to day spend 3 hours on about three and a half hours commuting each day. So now I just get to just stay at home and work from home, and then seeing family, because I hadn't seen this sister since Christmas holiday, since December. So it was pretty cool. Now that I'm getting to spend like more time with her family and my nieces and nephew. So it's pretty cool.
That's excellent. It's excellent that you get to have that type of flexibility that your job allows you to have that continued relationship with your students so you don't have to like just abruptly end it, you know. Congratulations. Especially during this time. It's just so far out. Do you miss your studio?
Well, I don't. Yeah, like I think about. I've been thinking about like a studio recently, and like I've never had like except I guess maybe in grad school, I've never had like one like specific place that I work, because a lot of the work that I do is about. I'm really interested in the idea of like art and life, and when art is um, when your life is art and when art is life, like just like and how that mixes. And so with a lot of my work, I don't necessarily like need like one space to do it. I just kind of need to live my life, and I'll have like I can just kind of set up shop anywhere. Like right now, I'm staying at my sister's house. Um, she kicked one of my nieces, out of their bedroom so they can lend me the bedroom um, for the time being. And I just got a table from outside, like stuff that she uses for parties. And I just set up shop here. I just put table, got all my like pens, because originally I was only coming out to the Bay Area for 2 weeks during my spring break, and then I realized that this thing wasn't. It was going to be a long-term thing, and I decided to just stay out here and be with family. So yeah, I just kind of said I had brought some of my art materials and just kind of doing work with what I have and working with and trying new things out too.
I'm glad to hear that you're able to like have a studio practice that has a lot of practical essence. You know, like it's very much like what's on hand, how you like how do you see the materials that you use, and uh, how does your like where you are contextually lead you to make those decisions?
Well, I don't like right now. Currently, I'm just like I'm working with like literally just the things that I brought in my backpack. And I like be right before everything like shit hit the fan. Um, I got this like just marker paper and a bunch of markers, and I've been just making like with like Crayola markers, like just making a bunch of drawings with them. And but like a lot of my practice is just like based on like just observations about the world, especially about the border, observations about being an immigrant, and just like kind of my experience as a queer woman. So my materiality and my media just merges and changes depending on whatever my concept is at the time. And right now, just like I had a bunch of like things like conceptual wise and like body of work, like the trajectory of my work wise, like what I wanted to do, and like the next kind of body of work. And like I was just like I can't do any of that right now. Like I can't. I'm not in that mind frame. So I'm just like doing like just kind of said like fuck it and just like gonna make art of about I don't know just a bunch of different things, just drawings. I'm doing a lot of like I got this type of material that's for cross stitching. I had brought it with me. I had tried it like at some point last summer, and I was like, oh, this could be probably a good material to do, like because it's like meditative, it's time consuming, and I have more time now. So I was like, I could probably pick this up and just do something with it. And so, um, yeah, I've just been doing like work with whatever it is that I brought in my backpack.
Man, I think that that's one of the craziest decisions. Like you have to like balance out how much you're going to carry as much as like your clothes and all that stuff. And then on top of that, you have to figure out like what is a practical amount of art to bring with you, right? How did that work out for you as you were packing for this trip that ended up being longer than you thought?
Well, like I usually like for like holidays, like I spend them with my family. I come up here to spend like Christmas and New Year's usually with my family, and I usually bring like pack like one bag, like I don't know, like a Trader Joe's bag size, like of materials that I want to work with. And I've learned over the years like what I need, like what for sure like are the things I need, just like drawing pens, paper, watercolor paper, stuff like that. And one of the things that I'm learning that I really need is like good lighting. So like I travel with like this like I don't know, it's cool. It's like a light that just like it just like comes apart, and it like it fits like really easily anyway. Because like I'm not like when I'm drawing, like my vision's really bad, and so I always need like just like a really good light source. And I at one point I was like, I should buy a headlamp, like just have it here so I can work anywhere. Um, but yeah, so I've been doing this for a while, and so I've been getting better. And I thought I was thinking that I was probably packing a little too much, but then I like somehow I guess subconsciously I knew, and I really brought a bunch of stuff that I've used everything I've brought.
And I think being an artist and being an educator at the same time also means that you're also like setting yourself up to share and to have communal experiences and to be open to other people's creativity. And I know for me, like as a like mentally, like being a facilitator and trying to help a person just express themselves, right? I'm like so overbearing when it comes to like, oh, you could do this and you should use this and you have all these other materials. And so did you pack in that kind of way where like you're like I'll have like a lesson I could do for this, and then you compartmentalize what you were bringing in to like things that were like these are for sure going to be for my studies or for me to try out like experimental materials and then educational materials.
Yeah, a little bit. As, like I brought one like tripod thing because I knew that I wanted to teach my students about stop motion animation. And so like I brought this tripod just to like test out and make some myself to know like how it's gonna work out. So I brought those things, and then I also brought like a cyanotype kit because I want I like making art and like sharing the things that I know with my family and like my nieces especially. And so like we pretty early on the time that I got here, I've been here for like a month. I mixed the chemicals and we made cyanotypes together, and it was cool. Like we got to go out like on a walk and then like pick out specific things that would work well for cyanotype, and then do them over a couple of days. So yeah, I always have kind of like also a mindset like um, my own personal like things to experiment, and then things I could do for my students and like with my family.
Yeah, I feel you. I think one of the things that I like did right off the bat, like I think it was like the third weekend of the quarantine, I was like, oh man, I live in this apartment building where it's like a bunch of kids, and I was like, I have all this material, so I just made these little baggies for the little kids, so that like, and like I put it in the front and over by the mail area. I like tacked it up, and I was like, take a bag, make some art, express yourself, and the next day, like in the morning, I think I put it up like at 7 at night. In the morning, they were all gone. I felt so overjoyed just to be able to offer like an opportunity for like it doesn't even matter whether it's little kids. It can just be like my neighbors, for my neighbors to have some materials to do stuff because one people don't think about like what are you gonna do if you're like stranded in the desert island? How are you gonna be able to like keep your sanity? And it's those types of questions when you're pushed against the wall that like how do you prepare yourself for that kind of thing? I think artists do that really well.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've talked about the materials that you've brought with you, what kind of things have you been doing in quarantine in the Bay?
Uh, well, I've been like just like playing with those markers, and I got like a pad of marker paper like a for my students, and like kind of wanted to test it out myself too. Um, and I've been just like drawing a bunch of like when I was still in Long Beach, I would go on walks and just take walks of my neighborhood and around my neighborhood and look at just like houses that I really liked or that were interesting, like all like I don't know my neighborhoods. I think we're actually like our families or I do and your family live in a close proximity in Long Beach now.
I mean, like Bixby Knolls off of 36th and Long Beach. Too much information, internet.
Yeah, like in that same area, and there's just like I love that my neighborhood has like a bunch of like not one house is like copy paste like a bunch of neighborhoods are. Like they're all like locas. Like one has like a house full of parrots, and like another one has like a bunch of plants, and like I don't know, I like to photograph the houses, and then I've been making just like these drawings.
Oh, that's not a piñata in a trash can?
Yeah, so my backyard when out in Long Beach is like a it's an alley. And so like this is from a photograph I took a while back. Like it was like trash day. I like to walk around sometimes like during those days and see like things that people throw out. And so it was like a piñata and on just like throwing in the garbage. Um, a house that I really I don't know, just kind of crazy like house like really bright orange with like there's palm trees. Oh yeah, I saw Williams
Yeah,
and like
totally.
everybody's fluffing their hair. We haven't even talked about that yet. We haven't talked about the elephant in the room.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're gonna have to maybe touch upon that in a second, but it's nice to have twins, a twin situation.
I don't know, just like people's like front like porches to like chill, but like nobody was chilling at the time. The chairs were just like empty. Um, that's like from another house. So just like trying it out, just like drawing with like materials that like I didn't I didn't think were like I don't know. Like I think if I was doing this when I was in grad school, they would have been like, fuck, like why are you using Crayola markers? Like you need like it's just some like fine material that has so much meaning and stuff. And I'm like, I don't even care right now. I'm just gonna draw, like have fun and draw with Crayola markers because that's all I could do right now. So a bunch of those, like I've been practicing also just like and teaching my students like how to draw, like making just really confident marks and like being committed to like mark making. So just drawing my hands in marker. So I've been drawing like a whole bunch of these.
Can you get a little closer to see how that marker line looks
Yeah.
as you get close? It has a pretty interesting. Is it so? It's a felt tip marker, right? And that's why it
Mm-hmm.
has that like really nice smooth bleed onto the
Yeah,
paper.
the paper is like a pad of marker paper.
I like that it has
With
this like Egon Schiele kind of like finish
I
to it.
well what I've been like I've been like and we're gonna nerd out right now about like a little bit of materials. I don't do this too much because like most of my work doesn't have a lot of like traditional art material, but like I just like what I've been really loving about it is like just like how smooth like my mark is, like how it just like flows like without any like I used to always draw on watercolor paper and that was like it's bumpy. And this is just super smooth and like it just helps me just like make like a really confident and like just like I don't know, let it flow a little easier. Um, mark. But yeah, it's really nice. I like to so I switch back and forth. I'll,
Devin Sudo asked the question.
tips on confident drawing. I think that I talk to my students about that a lot. It's just like it has to do a lot with observation and like really honing in on like your observational like skills, like, and it's something it's what I teach. Like when as like a teacher, like I teach a lot of intro classes with a lot of students that are not um, really consider themselves artists or art majors when I taught at college. Um, and so it's just like you really have to focus on what you're looking at, and just like the curves and the contours. But I do a bunch of different things to get my students like up to that place where I teach them how to like I'll put a bunch of weird random materials in a bag, and I have them close their eyes and they pick up an object out of the bag and they have to draw it just based off like the touch. Like they draw blind, like they close their eyes, or we draw like one continuous line drawings. Like I warm them up to get really like in tune with like their senses, like their sight, their touch, their feel, like all of that, so that they can kind of work up to get more confident mark making. Um, yeah.
So I really like where you're going with this about the mark making and like the students. And so like within that, like how do you encourage students to like stay focused on the development part? Because I think one of the hard parts is that um, they'll do your exercise
Mm-hmm.
and what they'll see is not what they're perceiving that they're doing. And so how do you encourage them to not give up after they see the first rounds of failure?
Well, because I think I make myself really vulnerable to them, like and I'll draw it for myself, like, and I'll draw something and it'll look disgusting, but I'm like, but I tell them, I talk about it like with confidence. I'm like, yeah, this is going up in the gallery, um, and like I just kind of joke with them, and like after they make their first drawing, they sometimes like they laugh, and I'm like, oh yeah, like this is going up on the newsletter, like this is it. So I just kind of like, I don't know, I'll introduce like humor, or like also just like talking to them.
The
And I don't
newsletter.
know that they can get there yet, like, because it takes a lot of time to get to the place where we trust the process, and like maybe at the end, um, result won't be like, because these hand drawings are pretty nice, I have to say. Like, I don't usually say that about my drawings, pero me salieron chidas.
Yeah, yeah, they're real nice. They're definitely
Me
they're
salieron bonitas.
I'm glad that you've been able to rehearse them throughout your life and that they came out,
Yeah,
you executed it at such a precision.
but like, and just, I know that that's not the point, and the point was just like going and trusting this process, and trusting that it fails a lot, that you fail a lot through it, and that not all the drawings, like sometimes like I'll sit and I'll draw, and like everything that I draw, I'm like, está bien feo, and I'll literally like crumble it up and have like a little pile. And sometimes like it's just like the gods are with me and everything's flowing.
Whew, I really love that kind of tangent because I sort of feel like there is something about making art where you just trust yourself in this path that has no direction, right? And so like you're like drawing, you're inspired, you're reacting, but you're not trying to mimic life.
Mm-hmm.
And can you describe? Does that happen to you when you're doing your work or when you're drawing?
It does, and I actually I wrote that down because I think that you just said something that was really powerful. It was just like you have to like trust yourself in like a path where you don't know what the outcome is gonna be. And I think that's like why, like, as creatives and like as artists, like we've been doing, for the most part, like during this COVID-19 and pandemic, like we've been doing, for the most part, artists, like, all right, like we're used to these processes that are uncertain, and these mindsets, just putting yourself in a mindset that you don't know when it's going to be over, you don't know, like, and I mean, without putting like, there's a lot to say about what's happening with the pandemic, but just like, yeah, just like, um, I think that as artists, we explore this often, and I think we get better at it, because I think, even a couple of years ago, like, uh, when I was doing that, my really big, like first like piece that of work that was like really, established, I guess, like my durational performance piece, the 365 days in an immigrant shirt piece. Like, I had no idea like what was gonna come out of that. Like every day was just like a day of like exploration and like growth, and like not, and like awful days where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is an art. Like, no, like, who am I? And a bunch of days, and then like I wrapped it up, and then in retrospect, I was like, oh, like, yeah. like it was this and it was that and it was a bunch of different things. Um, and so I'm getting better at like trusting the unknown.
Let me ask you a question just to give context for your 365 project. When was it, and what instigated that action, so that we can have more context to what you went through?
Yeah, so that was in 2014, which is a long time ago now that I think about it. And it was like towards the end of my MFA program where I I wanted to do something related to. I was trying to make art at like just different art that was like about these bigger ideas and about I don't even remember, but it wasn't working out for me until I went back to like I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make art about things that I'm interested in about and things that I'm passionate about, like I don't know, just like social change and like the border. Like I've always been like people have been getting angry at like things that happen in the border right now, like and have been in the border like since Trump got elected. But like I've known about like I grew up in Laredo, Texas. I grew up in a border city. Like the border was an like everyday reality for me, and just crossing back and forth and seeing like even families being separated. Like families have been separated forever. Like not to the extent and like the drama um, the extremity that it is now, but um, I've seen it. I've seen like just like okay, well, like the dad was deported, and now the dad stays in Nuevo Laredo, the family stays in Laredo. So I wanted to like do art kind of related to that, and that was a huge undertaking because um, for several different things, like there's just it's so big of a problem, and I have a lot of privilege. Like I was born in Guadalajara, Mexico, but now I am a U.S. citizen. I became a U.S. citizen, so I can cross the border back and forth. I'm light skinned. I have a bunch of privilege, and so I was like, oh, I shouldn't do this project, but I'm talking about a lot of things, but this. But anyway, the project basically was that I went out to the border, found a shirt that a migrant left behind when I was like leaving water at for a nonprofit called Water Station, and it was something that somebody left behind through the border, and I picked up the shirt thinking that I could do an art piece with it, and I took it back home with me and I wore it every day for an entire year as like a way to like protest just like cruel and unjust military I mean unjust like border policies, and like a way to like experiment like what this shirt would do to my everyday life. um so it's I mean I can talk because that was a year of my life. I can do like a long artist talk just on that project, but um, yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you giving us a little bit more context about what that project entails and where it's rooted from, because it's really significant, one, to your body of work, and also it's like a, I think psychologically something that goes through 165 days is, it's that max durational kind of conversation about how it changes you, like not just psychologically but like biologically. I wanted to ask you two questions about your drawings, though. The marker drawings, and that is, how long does it take you to make one of those drawings?
mm. So the ones that have like I do other ones that are just like more line drawings, and I'll just draw with like a something a light color like a gray marker, and then like I'll fill it in. I'll start filling in with color, which is actually something new for me because I do a lot of drawing. Like a lot of my work like incorporates drawing, but never really color. And so I think this is the first time that I added color to the mix. And what this paper allows me to like blend color. so I'm able to like mix. Like I drew my sister one of my sister's living room, and so like I was able to like mix and blend like two different colors. So that's been kind of fun, just to like do different things like that. Um, and so they take me a long time because I have to like do a lot of just like color mixing and like they take me a while, but it doesn't take me as long as. Let me show you the other work that I've been doing. Um, it's just like completely like complete opposite, but also it takes a long time. Like I've been making. I was talking about doing this cross stitching stuff with.
Cancel rent.
Yeah, so I was just like I. My very first one was. It's where did I put it? Sorry, my art table is a little bit of a disaster right now. I'll find it. Yeah, I just made like these political messages like relevant to like what's going on currently. And so just like cross stitching, so it takes like a really long time to like build each like letter. And then just like I just made a little house. And then afterwards I decided, because I was showing them to friends, I was like, oh, I'm making these like little embroidery things, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. And they're like, make pillows. And I was like, okay, like let's have some like these political pillows, or these like, I don't know, radical pillows. So I just got my sister to give me some fabric, like this was like an old curtain, and I dyed it. I dyed the fabric with avocado.
Oh, that's what you use the. I was gonna ask you that next. Yeah.
So I got the pit and the skins of the avocado, and you boil it, and like a bunch of my friends do a lot of textile works, and like I always found that kind of intimidating, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna try it. Like I can do this right now. And so especially because I'm with family, and like when I live alone, and so like I'll buy myself maybe one avocado, you know, when I'm with my family. So we're eating like, I don't know, for breakfast we have it. So I was just like, save the skins for me and the pits. And so it made this like really beautiful, like it's not gonna do it justice, but it's like this really beautiful like peachy pink color that's dyed. Oh, and there's one of my friends that does natural dye. She's like, yeah. And so then I started to just like, I got the fabric together, I made it into a pillow, and then put the patch on top of the pillow. And then this is another one, and it's talking just like about this specifically for like detention centers, but also like folks that are in prison right now.
This is a
set them free.
Set them free.
It's just, I didn't really think, I never do a lot of planning in my projects, and so I didn't really think about the shape. So and I'm not gonna find a pillow of stuff in here. I'll just have to buy like, I don't know, put some like stuffing or something, and they'll just be like unique.
And the stuffing could be anything too. Like,
yeah, you know. It can be anything. I was just like, it can even be like old stuffed animals. And this was actually the first one.
Yep, I feel that one.
Yeah. So I've been kind of those two projects where like I switch back and forth, like depending on how I feel, like doing marker drawings or doing some embroidery stuff. I have more of that curtain, and I'm gonna try to dye it with onion skins next. Try to dye the fabric with that, because I hear that I've researched that it makes like an orange color. So
beets are also really, and what is it? Jamaica.
Yeah.
Those are also really. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's all subjective, but I just think about all the different dyes that I've done that work out really well. Also, like, I think it's like sometimes when cactuses get infected, I think it's cochineal on them. You can rub that out, and it'll give you like a really nice kind of like earthy red and stuff.
Yeah, that's actually.
I'm not that great with natural dyes, to be real, but That's my
I've
my two
I've
cents.
done that one before because I was like house sitting for a friend in Echo Park in the fall, and I noticed that one of the cactuses had a bunch of it when I would walk to her apartment. And yeah, I picked up a bunch of that, and like that's when I got a little curious. And I was like, I could try it, but I never really did too much with it until like now. Mario's saying if I'm not doing any happy pillows
Or maybe like the happy colors, the happy colors
or happy
comic.
colors. I don't know. I don't know if Mario was referring to.
Also, Devin Sudo had this question too.
Are there people who shouldn't be making art about what's happening at the border? Oof, Dios mío. You're entering some tricky territory. Um, I don't. I'm not the one to answer that necessarily. That's a tough question. I feel like you need to ask yourself, well, if you want to make art about the border, like why you want to do it. Um, like what are the reasons like behind it? Like, and if you can kind of get yourself to answer a couple of questions, like why am I doing it? Who is it going to benefit? Is this like a community that I am going to have regular contact with? I know that I went to, so Tanya Awuniga, who is a person that I love and I fangirl her, and and now she knows who I am, but still, like every time I see her, I'm like, ah, like I just like admire her a lot.
Totally.
She has this, and she just had an exhibition at the Armory, and there was a bunch of different sections, but one of the sections, it was like a bunch of um, like clippings and like kind of like it showed more of her process of her work. And I think she had like a grid of like questions of like questions that you can ask yourself if you want to like do work about like the border or do work about, I don't know, race issues or the LGBTQ community. Like these are questions you should ask yourself. And um, so I'm not gonna say no to anybody to like not make art about the border because you should make art about whatever you want, but just ask yourself these questions um, and I think you'll find the answer for yourself.
I wanted to chime in on that because I think one of the difficult things about the question is that it sets like a bright line for art, no art, like expression, definition, and containment. And as an artist, like when you're imposing that, like you're applying a definition to something that does not need to have a definition. That said, right, there's going to be people that are really wonderful at creating poetic, resonant gestures that reflect emotionally. And then there's going to be projects that, fall between the lines and are just, expressions that have no meaning or context. And I think what happens is that if you're looking at something that's politically serious and something that has cultural implications, the more the artist is able to address directly, the more successful those works can be for other people to experience. And so I think that the idea isn't like for a question like that isn't necessarily to polarize art as like a good or bad or any of those kinds of things, but it's more related to like the internal yeah, drive for that artist to create. And I think if they're creating and they're creating a dialogue, even if that dialogue is like difficult and not palatable, that dialogue is important. I always think about it, this artist is really controversial, and almost everybody that I've mentioned to hates him. Is this artist named Santiago Sierra, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a really problematic artist because he creates scenarios where human bodies are kind of taken like for granted. Oh man, like one of my one of the works I can talk about maybe more directly is like he converted a Jewish synagogue in Germany into a gas chamber by running cars like Volkswagen cars and connecting the exhaust pipes into the synagogue, and then it turned into uh, like a gas chamber, so people could go into the synagogue that would be filled with this carbon monoxide with using masks, and that's the only way that they could experience it. So they could only have like maybe a handful of people, and it has like all kinds of controversial things to it, but the underlying gesture is something that is like conceptually related to art on a really controversial level. So like I think that the gesture is like really rough and horrible, but at the same time, the fact that that gesture exists kind of gives us context to be able to add to the lexicon of art. So it's like a similar kind of paradox, I suppose. Sorry about the deviation within that.
No,
Um,
it's cool. Do you want to
but I
talk
did,
about our hair now?
oh yeah, we can talk about our hair for sure, for sure. What made you cut your hair?
What made you cut your famous? Um, I don't know
I
what
don't
it
know if it
is.
was famous. I don't know if it was famous, but it was definitely different. You know, I think it was like, I've had this haircut for a good minute. I think that I can, explore different kinds of things. And I was like, it's 2020. Fuck, this decade's gonna end. Something new is gonna happen. I don't have anything to lose. Right now, I can't go see my barber. I miss my barber. My barber's like, I've had this barber for a long time, and he's always been like, something that like the core of my hair evolution. I don't know when I'm gonna see them again, and that's disheartening. And I was like, well, this is the right time.
Okay. Yeah. And I did it for a couple of different reasons. Just but like I've wanted to like just try and like rock like a short hairstyle for a while. Um, I as a kid I had really short hair always. Like I had like a mushroom like a bowl cut, which I think a bunch of '90s kids rocked too.
They're
Um,
horrible, horrible photos of a mushroom haircut.
but like I
Horrible.
had mine for way too long. Like just like I was getting really old and I still had that hairstyle and like my dad thought it was really cute. And then ever since then, like um I was like got pressured into thinking that I needed to have long hair because I'm a woman. I mean I'm around like just females like always like I have my mom, I have four sisters, just a bunch of maternal figures. So just I thought that that's what I needed to have as a woman, and then I've been thinking about it for a minute, like to cut it, and just different things stopped me. I was like, still like what my parents would say because I've like I've given them a lot of just like hard things to chew on, like me coming out as a lesbian has not been easy for them, and then like this is gonna shock them even more. But I really wanted to do it, and now because of I'm not the pandemic, I'm not going anywhere. I have a I have a secure job now, um, where I can be openly gay, and so there's no more fear for me to like not be visibly gay in the world. And so my sister actually did it for me. Uh,
Congratulations.
yeah, I like we just braided my hair. She cut it, so I'm saving it because that's gonna be to donate. And then she buzzed it for me. It felt really, really great. It feels great.
I agree with well, I want to just respond to how wonderful it is that you were able to share this experience with your sister and that you get to like reflect on it, because I know that when you grow your hair out and it gets to a certain point, when you like release it, it's like a strange kind of like detachment of your body and yourself. So that hair is somewhat it's precious, especially if you don't do it very often. So even though like I cut my hair, I also saved it. I want to make some paintbrushes, and
Oh
so
damn!
I'm gonna find some time in between all these interviews and cut out the brush handles, and then like get the tin metal in order to crimp it, and then like make different types of brushes that I like to use using my own hair. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, that's
But
I like that idea a lot.
thanks, I appreciate it. I was inspired by Gordon Matta Clark, who was this artist I think it was in the '70s in the Lower East Side of New York. He would make these crazy architectural, the architectural installations where you destroy a building and stuff using.
Oh, and you know what? That reminds me of what I also want to do with the hair, but like in it, also like um, that's part of like older body, like the last piece of work that I've been working on, which is it's I'm titling Siempre Era Él, and it's just like finding like looking back at these old photographs of my parents and my dad specifically. Have always been like super fascinated with like this like archival like stuff, and like I hoard all these photographs. Like that one person in the family that like has them all, and they all get mad at me, and they're like, "Why do you have that photo?" But anyway, I just like been seeing like how much I look like my dad, and like and thinking about like this Ana Mendieta piece that I love. It's called Transplanted, and I actually wanted to do this with my friend William here. He has a really nice mustache, and I was like, hey, can you give me your mustache so we can do this piece together? But then I was like, actually, wait, I don't think I need you. I think I can do I think I could do this on my own, but I did need him because he came over to my house and he's helped me photograph this piece or performances in a different way. I just don't need his hair. So I was like, fuck it. I could cut my own hair, like cut this like quote like feminine part of me, and then like make it into like something masculine, like make a mustache. So I have a bunch of hair now, so a bunch of mustaches might start popping up on Instagram.
You know what? I hope it does. I hope it does. I had a teacher at Santa Monica Community College, and it was like my first one of many instructors that was an openly lesbian woman, and it was like Halloween, and she was telling us how she was gonna make her beard, and so it's like she's like the trick is that you get human hair and you put a little bit of tape, a little bit of glue, and then you put it on there, and then you cut it, and then you put another layer, and then you cut it, and then you just have like multiple layers. I think you have to go down up so that you can have like your first layer and then your second layer and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's genius. Now there's gonna be a time in the future when I'm gonna use that information and pass it forward.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I never thought of doing a beard actually. So.
So it's like one layer and then second layer and then third layer. Anyways, I hope it works out. Mm. But actually, well, I think we're gonna be running out of time in the next maybe 10 minutes, and so the app will give me like a 1 minute marker. So I'll wave or something like that so that you can understand when that's gonna fucking end. But something that you mentioned that I think is really relevant in our conversation and kind of carried over is this idea of materials. In the beginning of our conversation, we were talking about how these Crayola markers, and how they exist within the context of art, and how if you were doing it in grad school, people would give you shit about it. And it got me to think a lot about how there is this kind of like hierarchy or this kind of like sense of ego when it comes to materials. Like, oh yeah, like I love Copic markers. It's like if a Copic marker is going to be better than a Crayola marker, but it doesn't really fucking matter. It doesn't matter whether you're like using Reeves BFK or whether you're using just printer paper. You just need to express, right? And at its core principle, what I like about using the Crayola marker is that it's like it has everything to do with expressing yourself at a like rudimentary level, and that democratized attitude within art is, I think, really important. And when we started with that, and then we got to your hair, which is like a really huge leap. Like I really love how all of these things that you're using within your art practice have, uh, like a really strange utility in that, like, hair is all aesthetic for us, but it keeps us warm and all these other strange things. But they're also like around you all the time. Can you maybe reflect like how that is for you?
I think it's like one. It's like being just being an immigrant child, and like learning like a bunch of like my influences. Like now people like when I get asked like interview questions, like people ask me like who my influence are, and I'm like, oh, mi ama, mi apa. Like they're like, when I really think about it, like at the Catholic Church, like those are the people that influenced my art, and like and how like and I'm sure like a bunch of other immigrant folks can like relate to this, and like or Latinx folks with like the raspachismo, just like we just like we don't get rid of shit. Like we find another use and another purpose for different things. And it's like right now, like I have avocados to work with, and my and curtains, and so I'm making pillows. I'm giving them these things a different life, and I had markers for my job, and so I'm just gonna make a bunch of marker drawings. Like I'm just like, yeah, and then and to like and that all of it is like art to me, like, and I can use all of it for art, like the markers, the avocados, the pillows, and the hair. Those are all medias and materials that I want to explore and see what I can do with. And there's no like hierarchy to them. Like they like I get different things out of them, and I feel different things with these processes, but I do the best with what I have, like Mario just said.
Yeah. Yeah, do the best with what you have. So I think when we talked about, well, have we talked about COVID and how like that's impacted your art making?
Um, no, I don't think I have necessarily. And I mean, and not to like not address like that. Like, yes, I have privilege to like even just think about like art and like to make art during this time. Um, so I want to just like address that, and yeah, I mean, I think actually because of this, like the COVID stuff, the pandemic, I've been able to just like be at home and like and try to make art. I think if it was April, I might have actually been traveling. I might have been going to like doing things in Chicago. Um, I was trying to like recreate this photographs of my dad, that he's like wearing this little hat in this house that and an address that I have of that he lived in Chicago, and I was gonna try to
Was it in Pilsen?
it's in Pilsen, yeah, because that's where my parents lived for a while.
Wow.
And so we were a friend and I were planning to travel out there and recreate those photographs. So like all that had to like take a hold, and I had a couple of exhibitions, like one was going to happen in the summer and one in the fall, so those are going to be probably delayed. But I feel like it's okay, because like now I have no hair, and so I can go back to Chicago. It's probably going to be warmer, and I could probably do a better job of recreating looking like my dad, because I don't have like a huge head of hair anymore. So I could take better photographs, and get more into character in a way. So I think, and then whatever, like my exhibitions are pushed more, and so I'll have more time to develop my work and to make other things. I didn't think I was going to be making pillows.
Yeah, right. I do really appreciate that type of like material promiscuity within your your way of looking at the world and how you transform it in order to, be an artist. I think that was maybe something that resonated with me the most about um, your East Side International show. It was like how diverse the expression was. It was not just like a one tone. It wasn't just like a row of, paper paintings or anything like that. It was like completely experiential, and to the point where like I got to like maybe like not necessarily be you, but to create a bridge of empathy that only comes from material like proximity.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, there's like a body of work that you use, and maybe this will be like the last kind of chime in before I think the time kicks in, where you use your red shoes. Can you talk about the red shoes and the history behind that crossing?
Yeah. That was like it's body of work that I was doing with uh a narrative of my mom's like border crossing. So she like I'm gonna try to. It's a long story ish, but I'll try to like do the more concise version. But essentially, she was telling her story of crossing the border in Tijuana to my niece, because my niece was working on an immigration project, and so she was like just yeah gonna interview her, do like a little report. And when she was doing that like interview, my mom mentioned or like that as she was crossing, she was wearing these red heels, um, these red heels that she had just bought because my dad had already they had been apart for some time and he had crossed before her, and they were going to see each other and like connect, and so she wanted to like just be really presentable and like look really guapa to him. So she crossed the border with her heels. Like it was like I don't know if I think she took like a bus from like Guadalajara to Tijuana or something, and then just like with the coyote crossed over. And so I guess like the other part of the trip was fine, but then like she had to like actually go through like I don't know, just thinking about like Tijuana and like all like the hills and like there's like the river and like there's like a bunch of I don't know, it's dry, it's cold and windy, and so she did all of that with red heels like because it mattered to her like to be presentable and to like still be attractive to my dad. So but that's something that she had never told me, and I was just like I just like I was like fixated and like I don't know, there was just something like that made me just like I just couldn't let that go, and I wanted to one recreate the shoes like first out of drawings. So like I sat down with her when she still lived in Texas. She knew like in so much detail like how these shoes were, and this was 40 years ago, and she just like uno se cruzaba acá, otro se cruzaba acá, like just like how tall they were and she would correct me like I was drawing with her, and she's like no levántale acá, like she would like kind of help me move my hand a little bit, um and and so I got the drawing made, and then I made paper mache, a paper mache version for myself because I am the same shoe size as my mom. So when after I thought about those shoes, I was like, where did they end up? And wherever like in the world they are not. Maybe the plastic of them still is out there, but um, like they would have fit me because all my mom, including my four sisters, were all the same shoe size. Like we yeah we use each other's shoes like often. Um, and so I was like, I
Teresa?
want to create this shoe because it could fit like me and it could fit my mom, my sisters. And so I first made it with paper mache,
Oh,
um, uh,
really?
pedestrian uh, walk. Because of my privilege, I can now cross the border back and forth. We only have a
So
little bit of time.
we have a minute. We have a minute. So I hate to cut it at that in the middle of this wonderful story, but before everything, I just want to say thank you for agreeing to come on here for an hour and have this wonderful conversation. I love your work. I love discussing the different things that go behind your excavation of these ideas, and to like see how it goes from the paper to what it is that you're going to make next. I'm really excited for the last 30 seconds. All you, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't realize sometimes I'm really like kind of like a quiet and introvert person. I'm like, but now when I get to talk about my art, I'm just like this and that. I mean, it's because I realize I'm like my mom. Like I'm such a storyteller, and it's something that I say like often in my
10
artist
seconds.
talks. Yeah, so storyteller, artist with no
Wonderful.
hair.
I feel like Amy Goodness. Goodness. 1 second